gauge, is that coming across?
Well, I think too, with one of the, and it's the most challenging, but also the most beneficial exercise that an entrepreneur or a CEO can do when branding is figure out how to put that ineffable into words.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. So for you, it's so second nature.
Right.
You don't even think about it. You just do it because that's how you are. That's how you're wired.
Right.
Being able to really, I guess, articulate that and define that is very, very challenging because
Right.
it's just a part of us.
Right.
But once you're able to really articulate it, that adds a lot of strength
Right.
to your brand and to your message. And I think that while a lot of what you do is just second nature, that you've actually been able to articulate. You've been able to articulate it a lot more than maybe you think.
Okay.
Which is how we're even at this point right now,
Right.
you know? Okay. So, why do most entrepreneurs fail to get funded?
It's actually a complex question. Part of it is a lack of understanding of the process, right? And then part of it is, once you're in the process, it's having the right things that you know that are needed in order to get funding. So let's talk about understanding the process first. It's you have to, when you're, and you have to do this with virtually everything, but with funding, you really have to put yourself in the shoes of who you're trying to get funding from. So you have to understand when you're trying to get funding, you need to understand, you know, how much funding do I need? Why do I need the funding? How am I going to repay the funding? All of that has to be articulated verbally in some kind of plan. There has to also be a financial plan associated with that. All of that has to make sense, and it has to be, you know, concise and consistent. And then you have to get that plan in front of the right audience. So a lot of entrepreneurs will say, I need money, but they can't tell you how much money they need. Or they'll tell you how much money they need, but not be able to justify that amount, you know, in a way that an investor, you know, will appreciate. And so now let's kind of fast forward. So there, regardless of how much funding you need and who you need it from, there are certain things that you have to have. You have to have a business plan. You have to have a pitch deck. It would help to have a business or a product or service. And it would help if that business, product, or service was actually making money. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. So let's kind of push that aside for a second. There are all kinds of funders. There are banks. And then there are multiple types of banks. There are credit unions. There are commercial banks. There are investment banks. There are venture capitalists. There are private equity firms. There are angel investors. So there's just a myriad of people that can give an entrepreneur money, but you really need to understand, who am I pitching to? And you can't pitch the same thing to everybody, because everybody's looking for something very different. Now, when you understand who it is you're pitching to, and this is critical, every investor knows what, so investors know the following, and this is how I'll explain this. If I'm a potential investor, I have a limited amount of funding available to invest in. So I may have, you know, built a company, sold the company for $100 million. I'm probably not, and then decided, you know, I want to become an investor. I'm not going to jeopardize my entire $100 million portfolio. I may decide I'm going to invest half of that, you know, in other businesses. So now I've created a $50 million fund. I'm not going to invest all of that money in one company. I'm going to more than likely invested in at least 20 companies, you know. Because if I invest in, actually it's 18 or more diverse investments, I've eliminated statistically eliminated the risk of losing my money, you know. I have enough diversity that I'm going to make some money off some things, I'm going to lose money on some things, but at the end of the day, my portfolio will remain positive if I have 18 or more different investments. So we'll just use the number 20 because, you know, nice and neat. So if I take, you know, that $50 million and invest it in 20 different companies, I can invest $2.5 million per company. So if an entrepreneur is approaching me and asking me for $5 million, it's a non-starter because I'm not going to invest more than $2.5 million in a company. That's why, you know, the entrepreneur has to research who they're getting in front of, has to understand what their limits are in terms of how much money will they invest in any given company. They also need to understand how long will that investor invest their money. So if I'm an angel investor and I'm investing $2.5 million per company with this $50 million portfolio, I may say to myself, I'm willing to, and I'm going to compare this to what else could I invest my money in and what kind of return could I get based on the type of investment vehicle I'm investing my money in. So, you know, I can put money in a certificate of deposit. I can put it in a checking account. I could put it in a mutual fund, so on and so forth. Obviously, investing in a company is much more risky, so I want a much greater return than investing, you know, in something that a bank or a mutual fund could give me. So I might say to myself, well, I'm willing to risk my money for 5 to 7 years, and I want, if I invest $2.5 million, I want to get 10 times return on that money at the end of 5 to 7 years. So what I'm saying to myself is that if I invest $2.5 million, I want to get back $25 million in 5 to 7 years. Now, when an entrepreneur approaches me and gives me, you know, the pitch deck and the business plan, the first thing I do is go to their financials because I want to understand how much money do you want from me. So as I said before, if my capacity is to invest $2.5 million per company, if you're looking for $5 million, I'm going to turn you down right away. But if on the other hand you're looking for $2.5 million or less, okay, we passed that first hurdle. Now I want to look to see, when are you looking to repay me? If you tell me you're looking to repay me in 10 years, and I've already said to myself, I'm looking to get my money back in 5 to 7 years, again, it's a non-starter. But if you're saying in your plan, well, you know, the expectation is I'm going to grow this company and I'm going to repay you over a 5 to 7 year period, again, we've passed another hurdle. Now I want to look at, you know, what kind of return are you anticipating giving me? That's a factor of how much equity are you willing to give me in your company? What's your company going to be valued at when you sell the company, or whatever you're going to do that allows me to get my return back from my investment? And based on the value of the company and the percentage of the company I own for my investment, you know, does that return over that 5 to 7 year period give me 10 times return on my money? If it gives me 10 times or more, again, I'm still interested. You've passed another hurdle. If it's less than 10 times, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but that investment becomes less. You know, if I'm going to rank order potential investments, you fall further down on the list versus other things that I can invest in, right? So now all of what I've just explained, an investor will never tell an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur has to do the research to figure out who am I pitching to, and what are they looking for in terms of, you know, how much will they invest, how long will they invest their money, and what kind of return are they expecting to receive. That's difficult to determine if you're talking, you know, on an individual by individual basis, but if you know what type of investor are they an angel investor, are they a venture capitalist, are they a private equity person, are they a commercial bank, that tells you, you know, on average, what kind of return they're expecting, how long they're willing to invest their money, how much money they have to invest. And so you can do some basic research. And if you don't know how to do it, you can hire someone like me, or someone who has a business school education, who understands the financial marketplace and knows who the different types of investors are and what their capacity to lend are, and what their expectations are, and then you can craft your pitch deck and your business plan to accommodate that type of investor. So when you do all of that, you give yourself a much better chance of getting funding, right, than not. So it's about having all the right documentation, but crafting that documentation in a way that it meets the expectations of the particular investor you're in front of. And then getting in front of the investor who wants to hear the type of deal you're pitching. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but that's all of that factors into why someone successfully or unsuccessfully gets funded.
Okay, so and if at any point I walk over here, just keep your line of vision in this direction.
Okay.
Because I'll just be checking on this one to make sure that it's still recording.
Yep.
So to kind of wrap up that question, give it to me in a statement of like, the reason most entrepreneurs fail to get funded is because they lack, a pitch deck. They don't do the research. So repeat the question as a statement and then do like a bullet point that wraps up everything that you just said. So most entrepreneurs fail to get funded because, so say that.
Most entrepreneurs fail to get funded because they fundamentally lack an understanding